Hey everybody, my name is Bryce Young. I'm the president and founder of Warm Audio, and today I want to talk to you about our first dynamic microphone release, the WA-19. So the WA-19 is a dynamic mic. It is based on a classic dynamic mic from the 1960s that was used live on stage. It was used in the studio and gives you sort of the best of both worlds from the dynamic world and the condenser world. There's some really cool history when you think about the original D19. You've got the Beatles. They used it in Abbey Road Studios on Ringo's overhead. They also used it on hi-hat. They used it on John Lennon's vocals on the Let It Be sessions. There's other modern musicians that use the vintage D19. Some examples would be Tame Impala or Kerry King. Many of the reasons that I love the WA-19 style of mic is the transducer that picks up the audio is very high quality. It's built by hand, it uses metal construction, it sounds incredible and gives you high-end frequency detail that you just don't get from most dynamic mics. When I think of dynamic mics, there's very few dynamic mics where I think you've got to hear this. Like, go plug this in. This will blow your mind. I usually think of dynamic mics as, hey, this works on this instrument or this application. That's what most people use. You should also use that. I think that's how a lot of people approach dynamic mics. They're typically not considered to be a sexy thing that sounds gorgeous and works on everything. You're gonna have to hear this yourself to believe me, but this mic is sort of the opposite of what I think of when I think of most other dynamic mics. I want you to hear it, and that's why we've recorded all kinds of sound samples. Click on the links below to check them out. There are a lot of dynamic mics that have become sort of studio staples, live staples that we've seen everywhere. This is a mic that I wouldn't say has been overlooked, but only so many were made back in the day, and no one modernly replicates this mic until now, to where I think it's one that many desire and want, but just haven't had an option to get their hands on it. You can buy the vintage versions for quite a bit of money, and we're releasing these at a very affordable price, which makes it, I think, something that a lot of people are going to gravitate to. What I love about the WA-19 and the vintage D19 is the frequency response. So a lot of dynamic mics only work on one thing, right? Maybe this dynamic mic sounds great on a snare, or this one sounds good on a kick, and that's kind of all it does. It's a one-trick pony. The WA-19 is like the catch-all dynamic mic. You can use it on cymbals, hi-hat, toms, kick, snare, acoustic guitar, vocals. There's nothing you can't put this mic on that it doesn't sound amazing on, and it doesn't give you that typical obnoxious top-end roll-off that a lot of dynamic mics do, where they just start to sound like this. And that's what made me fall in love with the original. That's what made me want to recreate the original and make it more accessible and available. One very unique part of this microphone is this silver collar around the top. And when first looking at it, it may just look like a decoration or part of the design, the aesthetic design, but it's actually functional. So this collar controls a variable high-pass filter that gives you up to 10 dB of attenuation at 50 Hertz. So what I love about this is that it is fully variable. And when you turn it, there's actually an indicator here, so you can see a flat line, meaning it's going to allow, or you're going to receive the most bass response. And then when you turn this collar, there's then a high-pass filter signal that connects up with this dot right here that shows, okay, now it's fully high-passed, or you're removing as much bass as possible as the high-pass filter allows. But it's fully variable, so it's not stepped. So if you want to take just a tiny bit of bass out of the source, and you don't want to perform that high-pass filter at the preamp, maybe the preamp has a set high-pass filter, and it's taking off too much low end, but you just want to take off a hair, this gives you the ability to do that. It's also a no-phase high-pass filter. And so what that means basically is a lot of preamp high-pass filters introduce distortion and phase. And so what I love about this is it's a fully acoustic high-pass filter. So the acoustics of the mic are what's creating the high-pass. So when you're in the fully flat mode, no high pass engaged, you have an open air channel between the back of the transducer through the rest of the mic. And that's what these vents are for on the side of the mic. That's also not there just for aesthetic purposes. The air flows out those vents, and then if you are to move this to high pass filter mode, then it blocks the vents, and the vents are no longer functioning. The back side of the transducer is fully blocked. Some might ask about this Warm Audio logo and say, hey, why is there a logo right on the front of the mic where I'm supposed to speak or sing into it? And is that going to affect the sound of the microphone? So there's actually a pop filter inside of the mic. So, for those of you who know what a pop filter is, sometimes you see them, they're pieces of cloth put in front of a studio condenser mic. A lot of dynamic mics actually have pop filters built in to prevent, the pop or the breath from hitting the transducer and creating an unwanted sound or pop noise. So there's a pop filter that sits behind this logo that actually covers that area of the transducer anyways, so it actually doesn't affect the frequency response to have that logo there. All right, so we actually have a component here that we've pulled from one of the sample microphones that we originally produced, and I wanted to show it here. So this is the capsule or transducer, whatever you like to call it, that sits here in the top of the microphone. And this obviously receives the sound vibrations and transfers them into an electrical signal that then goes to your preamp. But the reason why I'm showing this is you may not get as excited about components as I do, but this is a very attractive, exciting transducer. And the reason why is it's built out of metal, it's heavy, it has a strong magnet, it's hand built, there's screws here that are tensioned by hand. There's a lot of craftsmanship that goes into this, and that's part of the reason why this particular model of dynamic mic, I've always felt, outperforms others that are in its similar class. I think a lot of engineering went into the design of this original classic 60s microphone, and we made sure to include all of that same engineering. We did not look for a way to mass produce this cheaper or out of plastic or what have you. We wanted this to be the real deal, the real replica of what we all know from the 1960s. Thanks for taking a moment with me today to learn about the new dynamic mic from Warm Audio, the WA-19. You can check it out more and learn more about it at warmaudio.com. Thanks again and take care.